Welcome, everyone, to the Feminine Outliers podcast, your dose of fun, life advice, and experiences from two African professional women living and working in the Western world. We are your hosts, Cholwe Mandona
and Zelda Wasau.
And we are excited to have you here with us again. So today is career series episode. And we are going to be talking about workplace culture. So it's actually, I think it's a good topic to dive in this early in our career series, because we have talked about our professional lives, like our profession, and what it has taken for us to get to this point. And we have busted myths. And I want us to picture that now we are working, and in our situation, Zell, we are working for technically a company. Like, you're working for a hospital, right? And then I am working for a company. So we are not working for ourselves. And so it means that our interaction, I guess the way we do our work is not just with ourselves. We are you know what I mean? Yeah. So we're having to interact with our coworkers and other people that are part of the company. And also we're having to work with a hierarchy. So which means there's a position that we have been placed in the company, and then we are reporting to people higher up, and the chain goes on and on. So I thought it would be beneficial that we talk about workplace culture, because that will impact our work, and it does impact our work, whether we like it or not. And it's a thing. It's very, very real.
It is.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things of where I'm sure you guys who are listening, when you get done with your job for the day and you come home to your family, your friends, you usually maybe have a story to tell about. It could be a situation that happened at work. And so it's part of our life. And I think it would be great to get a balanced view of this aspect of our life. And so I am pretty excited to delve into it. So,
Me too.
I know, this is exciting. So I think, as per tradition, or, just to sort of step back a little bit and provide some context, I'm thinking let's get a online definition of what workplace culture is, and then we can sort of go from there. Okay, so I have my phone with me, and I have a definition from ukindeed.com. And in hey, this is what comes. So why are you laughing? It's like
ukindeed.com.
okay, all right, we
This
don't.
is so funny.
Yeah, so we're going okay, it's a battle of the UK versus the US here, but we're going with the UK. So what is workplace culture? It's the environment you create for your employees and the sum of your organization's traditions, interactions, attitudes, values, and behaviors. So, I know it's a mouthful there, in terms of the aspects of it: traditions, interactions, attitudes, values, and behaviors. Um, you know, I don't remember when I first heard the definition of workplace culture, and I think it may have been geared towards workplace politics. But
Mm.
I what I got from it is similar to this definition, and it was around. It was something, and I'm paraphrasing. It's like the average or the sum of the individuals who are part of that organization and how they think and how they do things. And I think the reason I found it or I was searching for it, I can't really remember, was because I never really understood where workplace, whether it's politics or culture, fitted into my career. I initially started off my career with this notion that, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I need to get into the office, just get my work done, prove to people that, I'm capable, and then go home. And then I did that for a couple of years before I started to realize that there was something missing in this equation of going to work. Um, and especially if you're very, I don't know how to say this, if you have a high sense of self, or you just feel like, you know what, my journey is my own. And so I'm just going to just go by myself. I'm going to be a lone wolf. It just doesn't seem to work like that, especially if you are working for a company and you're basically working in a team or with people. And so I felt like I needed to understand what is the essence of being part of a culture, or what's the essence of understanding quote unquote workplace politics and things like that. And once I got some definition like this, I was like, oh, if it is the sum of the individual's interactions and I'm not giving my voice, then I'm not part of that sum. Like, I'm not part of it. And that's a problem, because then I'm just going to try and assimilate into that culture. But if I bring my voice, then there's another, like, it dilutes the average, it dilutes that, or like it increases the sum, whichever way you look at it. So that's when I started to realize that there is value in being a part of the culture, or understanding culture and understanding how you want to be a part of it. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Zell.
Hmm. That's very deep.
Welcome to Chola's world.
I mean, when I think about workplace culture, and why I wanted to be a part of it, I initially think about, I don't know, it's a mixture of different things. Like
Mm,
learning how things work at work. Like how do you get stuff done? What are the shortcuts? What are the things to do? For me, that's what made it different because when I was in residency, for example, I learned the system and I could learn things from my colleagues about how, you learn tips and tricks and treats about how to get things done quicker, which orders
mm,
to put in quicker and all that stuff. And that was part of workplace culture for me because I was learning more about the job or aspects of the job that I did not know that you only get by being part of the
yes.
workplace and interacting with your colleagues and stuff like that. So that's usually the first thing I think about. And just in general, I usually think about that. And I also think about workplace gossip, which is just being in the know of what's happening. And that gossip can be useful and not useful. And
Mm,
I'm saying it might be controversial, but there is some useful gossip out
mm,
there that you learn and you hear and you're like, huh, that's good to know. And it's things like that when you get useful information that actually helps you. That to me was what made it important for me to be part of my workplace culture,
Mm.
because it's like it's very easy to just, particularly because now I'm new in my current workplace. It's very easy to like just, isolate yourself, or like I'm just gonna go there and work. But again, as you said, you're not an island when you're working. You're working with other people.
Mhm.
So you have to kind of, interact with other people. And so what I think about workplace culture, that's what I think about. It's just learning more about the place you are in, but at the same time, it also helps you better yourself, helps you get ahead, helps you be more efficient.
Mhm.
And some parts of it, it's just helping you, I don't know, have a little bit of fun. I mean, it's a bit fun and tricky sometimes with some of the workplace culture and politics that goes around. I
Mhm.
just think it's just part of being a team or working in a
Mm.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like you have a healthy I think you have a healthy sense of workplace culture because when you mention gossip, um I want to assume that some of our listeners would be thinking, that's bad. Why are you gossiping about someone? And the dangerous aspect of gossip is if something is untrue. And so now this information is spread around, and maybe a particular individual, let's say, is involved in it, or it could be a few people involved in it, and now the entire workplace has a specific view of them, which may not be good, and so their image, their reputation is tainted. So I want to say that people try to refrain from participating, whether it's in office gossip or culture, because it's almost like they want to not be tainted by the negative aspects of it. So it's their
Mm.
way of trying to say, like, you know what, I'm better off not being a part of this. I'm just going to do my job, get out of here, and spend it with my family and friends, the people that I trust or the people that love me. What would you say about that?
So my viewpoint on that would be, how you said, some people will not want to participate in workplace gossip because it taints their name. And that's
Mm-hmm.
very true. There are people like that out there who are like, you know what, I'm going to stay away from it because this is not going to end up well, or it might end up causing me to be in problems or things like that. I, but I've also seen people on the other hand who they really want to participate in workplace gossip. Like they're the center of it and
Mm-hmm.
they love it. They thrive on it. And I don't know. I haven't had time kind of respecting some of those people because it's like, why do you have to gossip all the time? But I
Mm.
feel like there's people like us who are in the middle.
Mm.
I would say like me who is in the middle. I
Mm.
don't necessarily want to. I don't want to participate in workplace gossip, but I don't want to be left out of it.
Yeah.
Because when you hear, like, I don't mind being in the room and hearing what
Mm-hmm.
people have to say while I'm doing my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I like that because in the sense that you actually learn more about what's happening, what to avoid, who to
Mm-hmm.
avoid. I learned that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I learned there's one infectious disease doctor that you know has a very she's just a very negative person. She's one of those people
Mm.
who you ask a really simple answer question and she'll give a very condescending answer to
Mm.
everyone. And I
Mhm.
when I heard them gossiping about her, I had them talk about her beforehand, and then I met her, and I
Mm.
got to experience that. Then I realized, oh my goodness, this is the person they were talking about. And then you realize, so it kind of prepared me in a sense that it kind of helped me know avoid this person or just keep your interaction to a minimum because of this and that. That to me is an
Mhm.
example of how workplace culture can be really important
Mhm.
because they might gossip about people, but you pick out things that are important. And when you interact with these people, you kind of know, hmm, This is how I should interact. This is what I should avoid. This is what I should do, or I should
Mhm.
interact. And so for me, I don't mind being sitting in the office when I'm doing my notes and people are gossiping around me and I'm just hearing what they say and they know I can hear what they say,
Mhm.
but I don't necessarily participate in it. But I'm hearing it because there's certain things that are really helpful. Of course, there's always the non useful gossip, there's always that out there.
Mm.
But I'm talking more so about there's things like, that really are helpful. And it's weird to say that gossip can be helpful, but I think it can be because I learned things about different people in the hospital, and I'm like, important to
Mhm.
know. It's things that I would not have known by myself until much later on,
Mhm.
like with way longer experience in the hospital. And so it kind of helps me in my day to day interactions and day going about things. But at the same
Mhm.
time, I feel like I shouldn't be the one instigating gossip and I shouldn't be the one trying to, talk about other people because
Mhm.
I feel like you also have to think about how other people feel.
Mhm.
And so I guess that's where I stand. So yeah, I'm all for healthy gossip, the gossip that helps protect us in the sense that they know avoid that person because of X, Y, and Z, and they
Yeah.
explain to you things about that person, and you're like, I mean, it helps.
Yeah, no, I can see that. 'Cause the thing that was coming to my mind is that uh like a workplace to me is like a smaller unit of society in a way. Like we're just humans. Um
Mm-hmm.
and I and obviously to protect the company, we need to put some rules, some boundaries because the key focus is to get a job done or to achieve a particular goal. Um, but once the basics have been taken care of, um, it's still, you don't take away people's views or perspectives um, of what society is like. So it's just a smaller unit, and so people carry certain views like that I may not like, and so I it's just what it
Right.
is, yeah. And then they come to work, and in the slightest of ways, of course, like I said, people have to adhere to these rules because they're in the workplace. They will still obviously unconsciously express, how they feel about certain things. And I think what makes office, or should I say workplace culture or even politics really hard sometimes is the non-verbal communication, and how you have to read between the lines sometimes, because people can't actually say things because then they would get in trouble. um,
Mm-hmm.
and so now they're communicating their values, their beliefs, their traditions in non-verbal ways. And whether when they're interacting with you or when they're interacting with a group of people, in the way they want work done, and the list goes on. So I think the more comfortable um, you would get, or like I would get with, workplace culture, it kind of then makes me just better ready for society. Then I shouldn't be surprised that this is what's going on in the world when I look at how things are being done at my workplace. So it's just like it's just humanness too happening, you know. So that's my thought on that.
I like how you said it's like a mini version of like what's going on in the world, and it's so true. You didn't think about it like that, but it's very true because you're dealing with real human beings in human life, and so it's the same people the same people you'll meet out there, the same people you meet in the your workplace, whether it's your office, your factory, wherever you work. So I like it, um,
Mm,
and I think that's true. But yeah, I mean that's my take on workplace gossip.
yeah. And
um,
Yeah. No, that does make sense. So the question I have then around this um is this healthy in general? Because I'm thinking about the people who are, I don't know if I want to say introverts, so I don't want to come after introverts, but I'm thinking of people that don't have the personality um to deal with it because like you
Mm.
and I are in STEM fields, and throughout our journey to get to this point as professionals, we have focused on our education, our training. So to some extent we rely heavily on our skills, our qualifications. And so there is almost this inclination, and for me I was just inclined to focus on getting my work done. So I'm just wondering, like, what advice we would give people who are thinking, like, oh, your value is only based on meritocracy. Like, you just do your work and then everything will be fine. But we're saying that no, you kind of need to get yourself in there. But I don't know how to sort of think about that if I had to tell someone like, hey, get to know your coworkers or get to know the culture. It's not just about you doing your work. And I wonder if that's just more beneficial for certain personalities versus other personalities.
Mm. It could be. I mean, it could be beneficial. I mean, here's my take. It's an
Mm,
extrovert's world. There's always something that's considered default in the world, right? And I feel like
mm-hmm,
extroversion is considered default, and not introversion.
mm,
So it's always, it's always a lot of things when they say it, I think are based towards extrovert. But one of the ways you could do as an introvert that you could still participate in your workplace culture is, as I said, and I gave a really good example. You could be sitting in the room with your coworkers. You don't have to participate in the conversation, but you can still
mm,
hear what's happening. Like that's a good way of handling it. So you don't necessarily have to be there actively talking. Yeah, I agree with that or that. No, but like just being in the vicinity is helpful.
mm-hmm,
So you shouldn't like isolate yourself to the point that you're not even hanging out around anyone. Just being in people's vicinity, I think, is really helpful. But I think also participating in committees or groups or stuff that you may be passionate about. There might be something at work that you enjoy, or some group. You know how they're always asking you, join this committee, join this, do that.
yeah.
If there's one that you enjoy, that's a good thing, a good way to kind of get yourself plugged in at work. I feel like there's different ways to plug in at work. And it could be just be simply interacting with your colleagues, like informally, being that a bit of a social butterfly or whatever. And you also could just be participating in committees and stuff like that. Or you could be the one who like if they need volunteers to do X, Y, and Z, you can help them out and things like that. I just feel like as an introvert, it's just all about strategy,
Mm,
um, on how you do things. Because the one thing I can say is I don't advise anyone to be completely excluded from uh, their workplace, like
mm,
culture.
mm,
You want to have more friends at work than enemies,
mm,
and even if you're excluding yourself, and you're not excluding yourself because you have enemies, but you're just like, I don't know, extremely introverted. You never
mm-hmm,
know when those relationships at work can help you one day, save you one day, get you that
mm-hmm,
promotion one day. You never know. So it's just keeping a basic, and again, we're not saying you should be buddy buddy with them. It's just being
mm,
basic interaction, courtesy, being courteous, and saying hi, how are you? Things like that, show some
mm-hmm,
interest. You don't have to show much interest, but show some interest, basically so they know that, hey, so and so is friendly enough and all that. I think that's just a basic thing to do. As an introvert, it's something I, you know, I work towards. And as if you're new, it's kind of hard at work initially because you try to adjust to everything.
Mhm.
But I just feel like getting into the system should be something every introvert and every person in general works in. And again, how you get into the system is all going to be based on you. For me, I'm
Mhm.
not someone who participates in committees and stuff like that right now,
Mm.
simply because I don't know what benefit I'm getting out of it. I like again, it comes back to strategy. If I want to
Yeah.
be part of the board of directors one day, then hell yes, you'll find me signing up for all these committees in the hospital because
Mhm.
I know it'll get attention that, hey, Dr. Wasau is participating in all these committees and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
But if I don't care about board of directors, promotion, or something like that, then I don't necessarily need to be part of it. So this again, strategy. If we
Mhm.
think about it, I think strategy will help um, any introvert out in deciding like how to participate at work.
Mm. Yeah, okay. That's a really good point. It made me realize like also if people don't want to openly participate, they could invite people for coffee, tea, lunch, on a just, get to know people on a one-on-one basis. And
Mm-hmm.
then just make sure that you schedule that in frequently or consistently, because one thing I've realized is that people don't um, do favors, or they don't people don't do well to just like one-off interaction and then all of a sudden they think, okay, I'm gonna support this person in their careers. It has to be consistent. They have to actually develop this relationship. um, and So I realized that just making sure that meetings are scheduled, interactions are scheduled, and also allowing for like this informal sort of setting. Because there's something about going to a workplace and it just breeds that idea of like you need to get work done. So to kind of be informal or to socialize and connect, sometimes it's not the best atmosphere. So,
Mm.
um, so sometimes it's just better off to like go across the street and just go to a coffee shop. That will bring back that humanness. So those are some things I don't know. I'm also thinking about would be very helpful.
But I think I totally get it because I know there's some workplaces that really don't have this culture, and I can't say I'm the best person to speak about this because my previous job as a resident, my current job, oh my goodness, I had so much fun with my colleagues.
Mm,
So it was really fun working together because we'd talk about things together, hang out together, things like that in general. So it was a really fun environment. So it's truthfully, I'm not the best person to talk about workplace dynamics when it's not a good like work when the it's kind of I don't know not necessarily hostility, but when the workplace designs this environment that they want you to just focus on work and don't
mm,
do anything else.
yeah.
But my assumption isn't. I would guess in certain those situations, just also being organic is helpful. So yeah, your work is like work, but the person you're sitting next to is a human being. So when
Mm-hmm.
you walk by them in the morning, you could just be like, "Oh, hey, good morning." You don't have to say good morning to everyone because obviously no. But like if
Mm-hmm.
it this person is in your vicinity, just be like, "Good morning. How are you?"
Mm-hmm.
Things like that that slowly break the ice
Yeah, that's very
and
true.
that kind of like help out. I think is very important in cases like that. And then maybe if you have during lunchtime, if you guys have your breaks, maybe you can try interacting a little bit more with your colleagues. Again, you're not trying to become besties, but
Yeah.
at least at the very least become an acquaintance. Like
Yeah.
know something about who you're working with, like a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but because it just helps you out. because I feel like in every space you need people you're like quote unquote working with that
Mhm.
you can kind of quote unquote rely on. It's always nice to have that one person at work who you know, who you can tell, hey, I'm running late. Please print out this for me. And you'll do the same for them or something like that. And you don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to know everything about their lives. That's what I would say about that. But that must be tricky.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed this thing of where people will get disappointed very quickly with the way their workplace operates? Because, like, let's say, they read up on the vision and mission statement and the values of the company. Um, and then they start working, and then, there's that honeymoon phase, and then they get all excited, and then maybe third week, fourth week, I don't know, depending on how true those statements were, they start to realize the cracks, and we're like, well, wait, when I was interviewing, they told me that this and this and this and this. um and I've come to realize that people get so disappointed that they start to just, it's almost like they're heartbroken that what the company said they do is not actually reflected in the everyday culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, I'm thinking like, so I think what ends up happening, for example, that example that you gave, where let's say the culture is people are just supposed to work hard, no chatting, no, just focus on your work. You're constantly on your computer. If you're seen even laughing, it means you're not getting your job done. But then if you go to the company's website, the company website statement says, we pride ourselves in a connected culture where people, network with each other, learn new skills, have a good, vibe or whatever. And then you go in there and all you're doing is work, work, work. And then so that thing of where, you said maybe say hi, and I'm sure it does work for some people, where if you say hi to them, they'll say hi back. But sometimes even the person that says hi eventually just gives up, because it was like, oh, I this doesn't seem to be the way that it rolls out in this place, even though I thought it was going to be like this. So I don't know. I just thought about that, because that's one thing that again makes people refrain from doing um workplace things or activities, because there's maybe that initial disappointment right from the start.
You know, this leans into like one of the disadvantages of, just in general workplace politics, and in this one in particular, workplace politics.
Mm.
So before I get to that point, I'll just say respond to what you have to say, and I'll say, manage your expectations. Point number one, just
Yeah.
manage. I feel like when people, but these companies are like, oh, we do this, or we do that, or we do blah blah blah. Just know it's not gonna fully be like that. I don't think anyone gets it ever fully 100% right.
Mm.
There might be companies that try hard to do that, but
Mhm.
I mean, just go in with lower expectations. So they say they do all this, they do that. Okay, lower your expectations right at the start. It's my personal opinion, simply because one of the things, and this will go in to play into one of the disadvantages. One of the things I've realized is the workplace, your workplace, your employers, whoever is responsible for you, are looking out for their own interests. They're
Mm.
trying to benefit the most out of everyone who's working. Like,
Mhm.
they're employing you and they're trying to make profit from whatever work you're bringing in. They're trying
Mhm.
to come out on top.
Mhm.
So they make all these policies to make you as the employee feel happy, valued and stuff. because they you have to feel happy, valued, and stuff to actually be productive.
Mm,
But they don't really care ultimately about, like, they don't really care about you. They just really want the work done at the end of the day. And so
mm,
if you get into, all this workplace politicking, and like you start breaking down, this is what is supposed to be done, this is how everything's supposed to be done, you're going to get disillusioned, you're going to get angry, and you're going to get mad. Now, if it's such a big difference, like with what they're saying, what their vision statement is, for example, and what's actually happening, then
mm-hmm.
maybe you have a valid excuse and reason to actually be, you know, mad.
Aloof.
Because
Yeah.
there are people who, there are companies where things are so different from what they told you. That's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And but I feel like at every place you work at, things are not going to fully be exactly how they want them in the vision statement. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why you have to know, what do you want to get out of the work, so that you know. Because this is one thing, like one of my pet peeves, and one of the workplace politicking stuff we have to deal with are some of the unnecessary um, administration stuff we have to do as physicians.
Mm,
It's just so much of it we have to do. They want you to put in, for example, like they want you to discharge a patient home by before 11. If you do that before 11 in the morning, you get a bonus. Like it adds up to your bonus. Um, they want you
wow.
to write all the clinical milestones for a patient, that adds up to your bonus. So, but the thing is this, the hospital is going to get paid more if you discharge
Mm,
people early, if you discharge people quickly, if you have
yeah.
high turnover. They don't tell you what's in it for them, but there's clearly something in it for them, and it's more
Yeah.
work for you. So,
Mm,
yeah, at that point in time, you have to be like, so what am I getting out of this? You also have to think, so if I'm going to participate in this and that of my workplace politics, what am I getting out of it? That's so important.
mm-hmm.
Because again, as I said, if I want to become a chief medical officer in my hospital, you'll find me sucking up a little bit and just doing these things and maybe participating in some of the hospital committees. But if you don't want that in your future, why bother? So
Mm-hmm.
my expectations when I go in is like, I know not everything is going to be exactly like they say, so I lower
Mm-hmm.
them a bit so
Yeah.
that I'm not in shock.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really, I think it's just, I don't know. I was going to say I think it's common sense, but I realized I should never say that.
Yeah.
Um, I should never say that.
Yep.
But I just think it's something that people should keep in mind, that it will never always be exactly as they say. So just lower them. If it's now vastly different, then decide, do you still want to keep the job, or is there a way for you to try to improve it? Because if there's a way, by you involving yourself in workplace politics, that you can actually improve some of the
Mm-hmm.
things you're not happy about and
Mm-hmm.
you're passionate about, then please, by all means, go ahead, participate in that committee, put yourself in positions that you can get, promoted and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
If that's something, if you see that as an opportunity, as a way to better whatever's happening at your workplace. But if you
Yeah.
feel like that's not a thing, and I mean, again, that's why I'm saying it's all about strategy.
Right. It's all
Yep.
about strategy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are really, really those are good points, Zale. And I like the idea of lowering um the expectations. And I think it's obviously every company, or at least the goal, as you said, would be to make a profit, and they have to make their workplace attractive enough to actually get people to say, "Hey, I want to come and work here." Um,
Mhm.
but I think looking at it from the individual who's going to be working, it seems like it's probably a good idea to get a taste of the culture you're about to join and see whether it floats with you, like it jives with you. I'm kind of thinking about it like the same way that um even when it comes to national cultures, some people could thrive in the Australian atmosphere, some people would thrive in the American atmosphere, the British atmosphere. So it's kind of
Mhm.
knowing yourself and then um, testing out the culture. And one thing I would recommend people when they're about to get a new job, or setting themselves out to figure out like, oh, which company should I join? I recommend during your interview, and if you get a chance to be interviewed, first of all, I would recommend to do it in person and do it in the office, and perhaps do it uh, maybe towards lunchtime, just so that you can maybe request, to hang out with the coworkers, like just kind of see how they banter, and see how,
Mhm.
like what their conversation is all about. How are they joking? um
Mhm.
what are they talking about? Even just like what they say about like the restaurants, or the restaurant that they're in. Like if they say like, oh gosh, rent is so expensive here, it's so ridiculous, and we only have one place to go to the gym, and then you're a person who likes going to the gym, and you have an idea of how you think your life should be if you join that place, but then they're already not talking positively about the gym, like things like that. I know it seems so small, but if it's not in line with your value, then you can kind of
Mhm.
say, I don't know about this job right now. Maybe I'll think about another job as well. But at least it gives you insight, um, a better insight than just a straight up interview would, in an enclosed space within an office, and with somebody who's just trying to get a gauge of your skills, and not necessarily whether you will fit in that environment itself. So that's a good point. That's a
Mhm.
good point, Zell. You brought up good points there. Um, but you're right. It is unfortunate that and actually it's really hard to live up to your values even as a person. So I think the expectation
True.
to put that expectation on an entire company, um, it's even makes it harder because you're
Harder. Mhm.
dealing with multiple people. Um, but I'm curious, Zell, what you think about this, because another thing about the workplace culture is considering the leadership and the management. So basically, I talked about having a hierarchy. So these companies have hierarchies, and so if you're starting out, particularly if you're starting out earlier, like you just, like for example, you have started being an attending physician. And when I first started out, I was an entry level engineer. And so there's almost this feeling of like, I can't really, I don't know, disturb the culture, because I am in a quote unquote, maybe let's say lower position, and I need to put my head down, and just do my work. So I kind of feel like that's another thing that could make people say, "Oh, I'm not gonna say anything." Um, so I don't know if there is truth to that, and maybe you need to wait it out before you start participating in the workplace culture, the politics, um, because it can feel like, okay, how do people view me as well? Because do my opinions really matter? I'm just a small fish in the pond, and so I'll just keep quiet and do my job.
Uh, that's a hard one. So I don't know. I feel like initially, if you're new or starting out, keeping quiet and watching is the best option.
Mm,
Watching and seeing how other people respond, how the leadership does things. There's a beauty in sitting back and watching. You learn a
mm,
lot by observing, sitting back, keeping your eyes and ears open and hearing. know what's going on. I think that's important because that will also enable you to decide if you want to, you know, act on your convictions or whatever. It'll help you
Mm.
know the best way to do so, and if you
Mhm.
can or if you can't, and what your supposed repercussions would be.
Mm.
Um, so at least try and know the system you're in first, and then know how it's going to be, and see if other people think the same way as well. You know, because that can also help give you backup. Because I mean, with hierarchy, again, it also depends on what type of system you have, how your bosses are, other people above them. For me, I kind of just go into work with I think it's because of I've been looking up a lot of things to do with passive income and all. I just realized that, you know, a workplace, you've seen a lot of people on social media say how the workplace really in general doesn't care about you. Like if you die, they'll replace you real quickly, and
Mm.
life there, the work goes on.
Mm.
Life goes on, and so someone is like, you can't go killing yourself for work or something. So that's the mentality I have. So when it comes to even dealing with hierarchy and the bosses and stuff, that's kind of the mentality I have. So it's like I'm not gonna go out of my way to please you
Mm.
or do any of that. I mean, but again, it's because I also know what I want. Ultimately, like I know what I'm trying to get out of this job.
Mm.
And if I knew I
Yeah.
was trying to get, you know, a promotion or something, I might respond differently or act differently.
Yeah.
So I
I
I don't know why I keep on going back to strategy.
Yeah, like
I'm like,
strategy. Yeah.
I feel like ultimately speaking, it's just how you deal with it.
Mm.
Because I also know like the hierarchical structure can kind of make or break your workplace experience. If you have a bad, toxic workplace,
Mhm.
it can be really hard to function and to thrive. Um,
Mm.
and in that case, try and change it if you can. If you have people who you can work with and stuff, that'll be great. If it's something that's not going to change, is it worth your mental health? Is it worth your health? Is it time to move?
Mhm.
Something worth considering. But I also, it also helps me to realize that all the bosses, the CEOs, CMOs, whatever, are just human. Oh, well, like when
Yeah.
you humanize them, it becomes a whole. You're just like, oh, they're just human,
Mhm.
and it helps out a lot in a lot of these situations. Did I even answer the question?
You did. You actually did. And you know, one thing you're making me realize with all of these points and questions, as you have rightly put it, the key word is strategy. Um, I think it's really hard to put humans in a box because honestly, if we were talking about our technical skills, I could list them out like number one, do this, number two, do this, number three, number four, number five. But when it comes to humans, it just goes to show that you cannot, um, what do you call this? You cannot try and solve humanness, because it all kind of like it all depends. So we're being given tips and tricks along the way of like, okay, if you're faced with this situation, do this. If it's this situation, do that. Um, and so I'm just realizing that I think I can see why people even don't want to be part of a workplace, or they want to work, for themselves, or they want to start their own business or something, because this is part of just the daily life of interacting with people. um but I think one thing I'm taking away that you have said is if you know what you want, I think that would be a good North Star, like a guiding light of, okay, why am I interacting with this person?
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of going to this meeting? Um, why should I know the CEO of the company? Um, why should I know this person? So I think it's the goal there is to keep asking oneself, like, what is my ultimate goal? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously, I think the initial intent of even being a part of the company is the opportunity to master your craft and to also, get compensation from it. I think the last episode or a couple of episodes that we have done, we talked about the benefits of like a 9 to 5. So there are benefits, but then it's keeping that in mind, keeping your vision in mind while navigating humanness. I feel like that's what I'm getting out of this. Um, and I think strategy is not, it's something that has to be learned,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you didn't cultivate that early. Like if you didn't, like for example, I would say that if you are a person that's, for example, uh a people pleaser or have people pleasing tendencies, navigating workplace culture can be really hard, because then it means one, like someone says something and then you switch and try to like please that person, and then another person says this and then you're like, oh, okay, I'll do this, then another person says this. So like if you don't have a strong sense of self, you're just going to be floating around, um
Mm-hmm.
and that's hard. That's really hard. And if you don't have like high self confidence, to actually say, no, I'm not attending this event, no, I'm not doing this, and then that's hard again, because then it means you're going to be swayed to do things you don't really want to do, but
Mm-hmm.
because you might be thinking, well, then it might lead me to a promotion, um, and maybe that's why I'll do this. Because I've heard stories of where people come up with narratives like, oh, if I do this, I'll probably get the promotion, and then somebody else gets the promotion, and then they get mad that they didn't get the promotion, and then it's like that, and then it's just like, oh, okay, so you came up with your own narrative, you didn't get the gist, from the kitchen table talk about how the promotions happen. So now you think you should have gotten it because of your own narrative. So I think people fall into those categories of just not, I don't know, yeah, not understanding how things work. But because of the reasons I've explained, but yeah. So it's just, I can see why people stress out about this. It's a lot.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what you said was right. I guess if you're not used to it, you wouldn't do it. So if you're not thinking ahead for yourself, and I get that, because I also was one of those people who, I would say, probably in the past couple of years, probably when I was younger, I didn't think about these things. But then as you go through life experiences, I started to realize I have to think about myself. I have to consider myself first in these situations and put myself in the best position for whatever I want. Because
Mhm.
I just realized, the work they're doing the exact same thing.
Mhm.
Because was that, one of the things, as I told you, some of the bonuses we have, the criteria for bonuses, when I look at all the criteria and stuff, I'm like, it's a lot of work.
Mhm.
Like, we're putting in work to get that bonus, and
Mhm.
then that work you're putting in is probably making the company even way more bonuses. Then I'm like adding it up and I'm like, is it even worth it?
Mm.
In my head,
Yeah.
I'm like, is it really worth it? I'm like, no. And so it's just this whole I think how I would summarize my whole thing is kind of knowing that everyone at work, all the different players at hand, your colleagues, your bosses, the owners, you, whoever you're working with, everyone is coming at it from their own angle and
Yeah.
kind of wants to benefit from work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and they're going to put in or implement policies that will help them out the best,
Mm-hmm.
help them out. So you yourself have to um, try and put in policies or strive for policies that will also help you in your work. And it could be whether it's official policies, whether it's how it is if in your like with your colleagues, like if you guys share a cubicle, and
Mm-hmm.
let's say you want a more pleasant room,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like a better aesthetic or something. If that helps, talk with your colleagues, work on that. It just it's all about, I guess, everyone. I would have to say everyone has to consider everyone, but I know that doesn't happen. Everyone considers themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
consider yourself as well when you're thinking about workplace culture and how you play into it and what you're going to do and how you're going to get and what you're going to get out of it, because it's a give and take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's good things to get out of it, but there's also bad things that come with it.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
Well said, Zell. I have nothing to add to that. That was well said. Know the game you're playing and play it well. So, on that
Mhm.
note, you're like, mm-hmm. Um, on that note, if you have any questions for us on this, and want advice, want insight on our current work experiences, um, let us know, and you can write to us at the feminine outliers at gmail.com. And also continue to listen to us, guys. We really love you. And we are glad that you're listening to us and that you appreciate the content that we have. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms, of course, with the popular ones like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So find us there, share it with your family, friends. And if you have enjoyed this episode and you think someone could benefit from listening to it, share it with them. We would love that. And I really look forward to the next Career Series episode. This has been fun. This has been great. And we love you guys. So until next time, have fun, live large, and don't be afraid to be an outlier.